What really happens when we die? Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in modern psychology, claimed to have uncovered astonishing insights into the soul's path after death. From vivid near-death visions to cosmic revelations, his experiences challenge everything we think we know about the afterlife. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could transform the way you see both life and death forever. Before we dive in, if you're new here and this resonates with you, hit subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel and help us keep creating meaningful content. This is not a religious sermon, not a work of fantasy, and not the promise of some secret cult. This is the personal testimony of a man who stepped across the threshold of what we call life and returned with answers. His name was Carl Jung, and he saw what most of us only feel in quiet moments. When the noise of the world fades and that one haunting question remains, what comes next? Jung wasn't a mystic chasing fame. He never claimed to be a prophet or a savior. He was a Swiss psychiatrist with razor-sharp intellect and a calm, penetrating gaze. But in 1944, an event shattered everything he thought he knew. And it might shatter your assumptions too. It began with a heart attack. Lying in a hospital bed, hovering between life and death, Jung experienced something extraordinary. His consciousness slipped free from his body, not in a dream, not in meditation, but in reality. I felt everything being stripped away, he later wrote. All my aims, my wishes, my thoughts, the entire illusion of earthly life fell from me. From above, he watched his body lying in bed, doctors working frantically below, and then the scene dissolved. He was in a place without floor, ceiling, or walls, a vast, infinite expanse. He called it the void of creation. There were no sounds, yet he understood everything. Thoughts arrived fully formed, without words. And in that space, there were others. Beings, pure consciousness, souls. He didn't know them, but somehow he did. And they knew him. There are no words for this experience, Jung said. It was like existing in a sphere of total knowing. Within this realm, Jung encountered what he later named the Life Panorama, a complete review of one's existence. Not judgment, not punishment, but understanding. It was like watching a film of your life, except you feel everything, your own emotions, and the emotions of everyone you ever affected, whether by a word, a deed, or even silence. I saw my life whole, Jung said. Nothing was hidden. I was my actions. I was my life. And in that moment, you know who you truly are. But this was only the beginning. When Jung returned, he didn't feel like he was waking from a dream. He felt as if he was leaving the real world behind and coming back into a shadow, a shell. True life is not here, he would often repeat. We are guests, travelers. Leah. And the most surprising truth, this is not a sentence being passed. It's an invitation, an opening to grow, to awaken, to return. Jung spoke of seeing souls who chose to come back, to be born again, to walk through joy and pain, fear and faith, not because they were forced, but because a deep inner call urged them toward becoming better, deeper, brighter. Once, describing a soul preparing to incarnate, Jung said it wasn't like watching a film. It was like hearing a symphony. A grand convergence of energy, light, and meaning, all flowing into a single point, into a human life. And in that moment, he understood, none of us are accidents. None of us are mistakes. We are deliberate. You come here, Jung said, because there is something within you that only life on earth can bring to light. And here's the beauty of it. In all these revelations, there was no grand stage, no pressure to believe. Jung never demanded faith. He simply said, remember. Those who listened didn't just hear with their ears, they felt it in their hearts. Because he wasn't teaching, he was reminding. Sometimes he would cry after speaking about these visions, not from fear, but from the overwhelming reality of what he had touched. Something so vivid, so true, that ordinary life seemed like the dream in comparison. And he admitted, the hardest part wasn't there. The hardest part was coming back and living as though you didn't know, when in truth, you did. If people remembered who they are, Jung once wrote in his private journal, they would stop fearing death, because death is not the end. It's the beginning of another stage, more real than this one. So, what did he see next? In one of his most profound accounts, Jung described not only the realm beyond life, but the transition itself. It's not a violent jolt, not a tearing away. It's a release, like exhaling after holding your breath for far too long. In that instant, everything changes. You are no longer in the body, yet you still are. You're aware. You feel. You perceive more purely than ever before, without the filters or pains of physical life. At first, you see your body, the room, the people around you, but it all feels strangely distant, as though it's no longer yours. Then comes the call, not from a blinding light, but a warm one. It doesn't overwhelm. It welcomes, radiating peace. You're met, Jung said, not by angels or departed relatives, but by presences, beings with no form, yet undeniable reality. You cannot see them, but you know them. Like love that needs no proof, it simply is. It feels like returning to somewhere you've always belonged, but somehow forgot. And here lies the heart of it. This meeting is also a moment of truth. No judgment, no condemnation. They hold your life before you, as if in the palm of a hand. Not the events themselves, but the feelings. What you felt. What others felt because of you. Every ripple you ever sent into the world comes back. Not to shame you, but to let you understand. If you caused someone pain, you feel it. Not as punishment, but as a lesson, a revelation. This is what they felt. And if you have ever loved someone, you will feel that love again, only purer, amplified, stripped of all distortion and misunderstanding. It's not God asking who you were, Jung said. It's you, without fear, without excuses, answering yourself. Did I truly become who I long to be? Some souls, he observed, hesitate to go further. Fear holds them. They cling to the familiar, to loved ones, to unfinished business, and remain in a realm he called the gray light. There's no terror there, but no peace either. It's like standing in a hallway with no doors until you choose to move forward or to return. What he described next was even more astonishing. Jung spoke of levels, places the soul experiences based not on wealth, status, or earthly titles, but on light, the purity of intention, the capacity to love, even when love is hard. These levels are not locations. They are states, vibrations. You don't ascend in the way we imagine. You remember who you truly are, and in that remembering, you become it. Here, Jung's voice would often grow quiet, as though stepping into territory few dared to name aloud. Beyond those levels, he said, there is silence, not emptiness, but the breath of the universe itself. In that silence, there are no forms, no names, no memory of you as you once knew yourself. There is only essence, the soul in its original light. I cannot put this into words, Jung confessed to his closest students. It is returning to the source of all things, to the place where you and the collective unconscious are no longer two, but one. But, he warned, to reach that place requires release, and release is rarely simple. Even in death, we cling to resentments, to desires, to the image of ourselves we think is real. Each of these is an anchor, a weight, keeping the soul from rising. Jung saw some souls wander because they couldn't forgive themselves, others, the world. Some lingered because they feared being forgotten, feared their life had meant nothing. And then came the helpers, not saviors, but gentle reminders, whispering, "You are more than you think. You are not alone." Many, despite all the pain of earthly life, chose to return. Why? Because in that higher realm, they remembered, life is not punishment, it is a chance. The soul doesn't come back to suffer, it comes back to become. Jung describes souls choosing their next lives, their parents, their culture, their moment in history, even their struggles, not as victims, but as architects in a cosmic drama of self-discovery. This, Jung believed, was his greatest revelation. We are not random. Our pain is not random. Our encounters are not random. Everything reflects what we came here carrying, what we wanted to face, what we longed to remember. You are not a body seeking meaning, he said. You are meaning wearing a body. Sometimes he spoke in riddles, as though holding back truths he knew not everyone was ready to receive. But even in those half-revealed phrases, something resonated. The truth, he insisted, is not in what happens after death. It's in what you choose to do while you're alive. There is no true death, only a change of rooms. The hardest part is not dying. The hardest part is being yourself. It began to seem as if Jung had seen not just the afterlife, but a map of the soul, complete with roads, crossroads, places where we forget ourselves, and places where we finally remember. One day, he said, the greatest pain of the soul will not be the loss of the body, it will be forgetting who it is. Most people, he claimed, live as if asleep because they fear what they might see when they wake. But waking is the true purpose of incarnation. He avoided religion, dogma, and sects. His message was simple: be the light, even in the dark. The soul is never lost, he said. Even if death comes in fear, even if confusion clouds the moment, the light always finds the spark. Because no one is an accident. Every person is an answer to an ancient call. In one of his last writings, Jung recalled seeing a soul return to the light. It wept, not from pain, but from recognition, from realizing how deeply it had underestimated itself, and how deeply it had been loved all along. He spoke of an invitation that comes to each of us, a moment when reality itself seems to crack and light spills through the opening. All that is required is not to run, but to pause and whisper, "I hear." And if you've reached this point, perhaps this is your moment. Not chance, not coincidence, a sign that you are already walking home. If something stirred inside you while hearing these words, even faintly, don't ignore it. Because somewhere within you, you already know this. Somewhere within you resonates what Jung called the voice of the soul. Share this with someone who may have forgotten and is now ready to remember. See you where words end and the real begins. Thank you for walking with me through this journey. If you found meaning here, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one.